This Chat with the Experts is brought to you by Angie's List on 93 WIBC.
Welcome back to Chat with the Experts, brought to you by Angie's List. We are joined today by Mike Robertson of iFast here in Indianapolis, and we're getting you in shape today with some helpful talk about how to approach your personal fitness goals, and we're going to talk more with Mike here in just a moment as we ask him your listener questions. But before we do that, we're going to share some tips for you in our What's Trending segment. With the new year just around the corner, it's a good time to start thinking about the positive changes that we want to make in our lives. And Angie's List writer Kaylee Balakovich put together some helpful tips for areas to focus in on. It's an article titled Food, Fitness, and Finances, Tips for the New Year. We want to quickly take a look at a few of the items on this list that apply to our discussion today. And first, the experts Kaylee spoke with point out that food is the number one downfall of those trying to live a healthier lifestyle. So it's important to create a customized plan around the foods you already enjoy eating, as opposed to forcing down things that you don't like. We're used to eating a certain way, so it's really important to honor that as we begin making healthier choices. A big part of the process involves reducing portions. So as an example, many restaurants serve large portion sizes, which we tend to eat in one sitting as opposed to splitting it up over a couple sittings. So one simple idea that Kaylee points out here is to immediately ask for a to-go box once your food arrives. Then when it comes, cut the meal in half, place half of it in the box, take it home for lunch the next day. Regarding fitness, two important factors that Kaylee discovered were switching up your workouts and finding a buddy. And whether you love Zumba, yoga, biking, or running, it's important to switch things up and avoid doing the same things every day. That's going to lead to a loss in motivation. Mixing things up in your exercises can also have other benefits, since doing the same exercises over and over can make them less effective to your adapting body. And finally, teamwork is something not to be taken lightly. Exercising regularly happens more often when you've got someone else to hold you accountable. So find a friend who's going to make a plan with you to work out together and motivate you to reach your goals. If you want more tips on preparing for the new year, you can read Kaylee's article and a whole lot more by visiting angieslist.com/articles. It's our solution center, and you can find articles, videos, podcasts, photos, and more on pretty much every subject you would want to know about. Again, angieslist.com/articles. That is what's trending for today, and now it is time to take some of your listener questions. It's a segment we call Consumers Ask, and every week here on Chat with the Experts, we look to Facebook, Twitter, and our online Angie's List Answers forum to find questions that you're asking and get you some answers straight from our expert. And today, that expert is Mike Robertson. Mike, are you ready to help these folks out?
I am. Let's do this.
All right. Let's start off with a question from Christine. She's asking if activities like yoga and Zumba offer real benefits that could assist her in meeting her fitness goals.
Yeah. So when it comes to any type of group exercise, probably the biggest benefit you're going to get right off the bat is the fact that there's a community element to it, and you're going to be more likely to stick to it. There's an accountability factor built in, but without knowing her exact goals, it's hard for me to say yes, very clearly. Sure. This will help. I would say with regards to yoga, the biggest benefits you're going to see, some benefits in flexibility, definitely a huge decrease in stress levels. I've actually, believe it or not, done yoga quite a bit myself. Okay. I love it. For kind of the de-stressing, relaxation type benefits. And let's be honest, we can all benefit from that, right?
Yeah.
We're all stressed out and anxious, especially this time of year. So yoga is a great avenue there. As far as Zumba goes, it's going to be primarily a cardiovascular workout. So it really just depends on her end goals, but absolutely, I would say if it's something you're going to stick to and do consistently, then it's probably going to help you out.
Yeah. We talked a little bit about this next question a little earlier in the show. Carrie wants to know what you can do to avoid injury when taking your first steps towards personal fitness. It is a real risk for almost everyone, so what are some things to be aware of?
Well, I would say number one, the idea of an assessment is huge. And again, if you have the means to have somebody assess you first and foremost and lay out a personal program for you, that's the best case. If you are going to go it on your own, I would say, whether you like it or not, ease into it. And again, there's that natural inclination of, I'm in the gym, I'm here, I'm going to go hard, but inevitably one of two things happens. Either you end up injured or you burn yourself out. So if you can kind of ease into the program and think about kind of the tortoise approach to fitness versus the hare, you're going to be a lot better off.
Yeah. In the same vein, Lawrence asks if there are any dangers in putting together his own weightlifting workout.
Oh, yes. Well, this is a little bit tougher because, again, anytime you add intensity, right? So building more weights or sprinting versus jogging, you inherently increase the likelihood that something could go wrong, right?
Yeah.
It's like the difference between driving your old beat up car 20 miles an hour to, the grocery store and flooring it on the Autobahn, right? There's just more likely for bad things to happen. So I would say, are you likely to have something bad happen? Probably not. But again, I would always err on the side of caution. And if you could, there's so many great resources online now. Even if you are kind of comfortable with it, this is the problem. A lot of times people with fitness think, oh, I've read a magazine or two, I can do this on my own.
Yeah.
Versus I wouldn't try and do my own taxes.
Yeah.
Right. I would much rather go to an accountant or have a specialist help me with that. So I would always say either find somebody to do it for you, outsource it, or if not, at least go online and find a program that is written by a trusted expert that's going to help you stay safe and healthy.
Yeah, definitely. Along, when the weightlifting stuff, along with just the general safety, there's also the, are you working the right muscles? Are you going to be getting the results you want? So there's a lot of reasons to look for some help in that area.
Absolutely.
Philip wants to know what you can do if you feel like your personal trainer isn't meeting your specific needs. So, maybe you've gotten in somewhere and you talked earlier how we're all different. That relationship isn't quite working out. I mean, what do you do at that point?
Yeah, this is tough. I feel like the other woman right now, but it's really important at this point. You've got to have an open line of communication, right? So if you've been with this person long enough and you like them and you trust them, then you need to have a very frank talk with them and explain to them, I don't feel like we're getting the results that we want, or I don't feel like the program is going in the right direction. What can we do to fix it up? And if they change, great. And if not, I think you kind of have your answer there. You need to find somebody else. And if you don't have that relationship with somebody, then you may not even need to have that discussion. You may kind of go ahead and start seeking out alternative options because, as scary as it is to think, there are some really bad trainers out there.
Right.
And I hate to say it because I'm a huge advocate for our industry, but there's a lot of people now that don't have a ton of education. They don't have a lot of schooling. So I would say if you can, have a frank conversation with them, let them know where you're at, because communication is always going to make things easier. But if that's not going to work, or you find after your talk that this isn't going to go well, or it's not going in the right direction, then you probably need to seek out alternative options.
Yeah, it almost feels like we sound like a broken record on this show at times, because whether you're talking about hiring a roofer, plumber, personal fitness trainer, the relationship is so important no matter what the field is. And if that relationship isn't there, then that's a sign of something where you may want to look down a different path. So it's such a huge part of it, especially in something like personal fitness. Grace asks if there's a way to find the right pair of shoes for her workouts.
Yeah, and again, this comes back to what your end goal is, right? Because I would give very different recommendations for somebody that wants to go out and jog leisurely versus somebody that wants to squat and deadlift heavy weight. If you're more into the weightlifting side of it, I like something that's got a little bit of support, but that's a little bit flatter sole. So think like old school Chuck Taylor, but maybe with a little bit more support on the bottom. Something like that works really well. And they make really nice weightlifting shoes if you are into more like the powerlifting side of it. As far as running goes, that's definitely a very specific question, because we'd have to take a look at her feet, see kind of whether she likes to supinate, pronate, that sort of thing. But kind of the big things that we always look for are on the back side of the shoe, we want a fair amount of heel control. And I don't want to get too geeky and anatomy focused, but you've got to have some support through the back side of the shoe. You need a nice bend at the toe box. If you can take your shoe and literally bend it in half from the bottom, that's not going to work. There needs to be give at the toe box. So these are some of the big things that we look for in a good shoe, because it kind of moves where it's supposed to and it gives you stability where you need it.
Yeah, it can be overwhelming walking into one of those stores and just a wall of shoes, but there's more options than ever now of working with a professional who can kind of see what your feet are doing when you're making movements and help you kind of head in the right direction of choosing the right shoes. There's a lot of cool options to consider out there. That's going to do it for our listener questions this week. A huge thank you, as always, to our listeners for submitting your questions. If you've got one you'd like to ask us, you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, or our Angie's List Answers forum. It's answers.angieslist.com. Find us and ask your question. Mike, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us today. This has been a really great conversation, so thanks for coming on to share your advice.
My pleasure, Kyle. I hope you enjoyed it.
Absolutely. That's going to do it for Mike Robertson of Indianapolis Fitness and Sports Training, but we are not done yet. Coming up, we're going to welcome in Angie's List editor and fitness buff Adam Wire to talk about his personal fitness regimen and how anyone can meet their fitness goals. Keep it right here. You're listening to Chat with the Experts, brought to you by Angie's List.
Do you love a good bargain? Angie'sList.com showcases popular deals from highly rated local companies so you can save time and money on the home and health services you need most. Remodeling your kitchen? Painting your house? Cleaning your carpet? We've got a deal for that. Angie's List members even have access to exclusive discounts, up to 80%. Don't waste another day or another dollar. Start shopping now at Angie'sList.com.